Section 3 of Journal of the Reverend Francis Asbury, Volume 2. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Brian Keenan. Friday, 21. Reached Pope's sometime in the night. On Saturday I read the Apostolical Canons, published by Johnson. Curious enough. He is a violent churchman, and appears to have little charity for the Presbyterians, upon whom he is unmercifully severe. I have been sorely tempted, and at sword's point with the enemy. Sunday, 23. I had very little life in preaching to a few dead souls at Pope's. On Monday, at Hutt's, it was nearly the same both in preaching and sacrament. In the evening, at Brother Cannon's, the Lord powerfully broke into my soul, and the cloud disappeared. That night, while sleeping, I dreamed I was praying for sanctification, and God very sensibly filled me with love, and I waked shouting, "Glory, glory to God." My soul was all in a flame. I had never felt so much of God in my life, and so I continued. This was on Christmas Day, a great day to me. I rode to the widow Wallard's and preached on "For this purpose was the Son of God manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil." During the last 5 days we have ridden 140 miles. We crossed Wicomico and came to G's. Death prevails here. My spirit was clothed in sackcloth. Saturday and Sunday, 29:30. Held quarterly meeting at Lancaster Meeting House. There was a large gathering and some life on the first day. On Sunday there was much snow, and only about 300 people attended. I ordained E. Ellis a deacon. Tuesday, January 1, 1788. Preached at the Widow Ball's on Psalm 90:12. Thursday, 3. Crossed the Rappahannock and came to G's, but did not feel free to stay. I went on to Blake's. Came to Brother Billips's in Kingston Parish, Gloucester County. Here we were at home, and happy in our religious exercises. During the last 100 miles of our journey, we have preached very little for the want of appointments. We left Brother Billips's, and after riding 40 miles, and preaching by the way, we came to Cappahokie Ferry. But being unable to cross, we rode on 10 miles to the Widow Rose. Tuesday, 8. There being a storm of rain and a thaw, we set out to cross the river at York. We succeeded, but with some difficulty. I had had some distressing apprehensions of this. I preached at B's on "How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet," etc. We came to James River. The ice was in the way, yet we pushed through safely to the opposite shore and arrived at moorings just as the quarterly meeting ended. Nevertheless, we too had a meeting, and the cry of glory was heard in great life. God is among these people. Brother Cox thinks that not less than 1,400, white and black, have been converted in Sussex Circuit the past year, and Brother Easter thinks there are still more in Brunswick Circuit. I preached at P's in Nansemond Circuit, thence to Cowlings, and preached on Isaiah 53, 1-4. We came on to Sleepy Hole Ferry. Being unable to get our horses over, we walked 5 miles to Turner's. Sunday, 13. I had some liberty on Isaiah 52, 6-8. Monday, 14. We continued our meeting nearly 4 hours, but had little satisfaction by reason of the extreme cold. There is a growth in religion here since last year. We came to Portsmouth, but too late. The ice hindered. However, I preached at 3 o'clock. Next day it rained, and few attended, so that, upon the whole, we had but a low time there. I preached at N. Wilson's. Here I had an interview with I.M. He wants to go into the old church. I had a great and good time at Brother Williams's on Isaiah 35, 3-5. The power and love of God were manifested and felt. North Carolina, Sunday, 20. I preached at Colonel Jarvis's, and on Monday at Saunders's. Dull times at both these places. Tuesday, 22. At Coanjock. There is a death here. Blank has been experimenting on extremes. Wise doctrine, hard discipline. I doubt whether it will end well. I have ridden about 80 miles and preached 4 times to about 800 people, most of whom were dead and ignorant. Yet I hope God will arise. Currituck, a pleasant place. I rode along the shore and enjoyed the view of its banks of evergreen. I preached at Camden Courthouse with freedom, but the people appeared insensible. After meeting, we rode, hungry and cold, to Brother C's. Thursday, 24. We had a violent storm, so we kept within doors, and man and beast were well provided for. Friday, 25. Was an uncommonly cold and windy day. I nevertheless attempted to preach at Richardson's chapel. In the evening visited W.P. Saturday, 26, and Sunday, 27. We had cold weather, and a cold people at the quarterly meeting at Flatty Creek Chapel. On Sabbath evening I preached at Nixonton. Monday, 28. Rode to Gates's, and next day preached at Knotty Pine Chapel. There were but few people, and it was a barren meeting. Wednesday, 30. Preached on "The grace of God that bringeth salvation hath appeared unto all men. Alas for the rich, they are so soon offended." Rode to Winton, a little town on Chowan River. Here I had a dry meeting with a few people in the courthouse. I housed for the night with W. I seldom mount my horse for a ride of less distance than 20 miles on ordinary occasions, and frequently have 40 or 50 in moving from one circuit to the other. In traveling thus I suffer much from hunger and cold. I preached at W's with some liberty. Our brother Chastain stamped to purpose. Saturday, February 2. At Wickocon I enlarged on Peter's Fall. Sunday, 3. I preached on Hebrews 6, 11, 12. I rode that evening to friend Freeman's, whom I had not visited for 5 years past. I found him still an honest Baptist, and we were kindly entertained. Rode to Ross's in Martin's County. The rise of the waters of the Roanoke River had inundated the lowlands more than a mile from the banks, and made the ferry altogether a wonderful sight. We came to our lodging about 9 o'clock, and found a plain, kind-hearted host. I preached a funeral sermon. My text, "The sting of death is sin." I spoke on the nature of the law, of sin, its guilt, power, nature, and punishment, and the victory through Christ. Does it not appear that those who live in sin, which is a breach of the law, wish to abolish the law, seeing they must know the necessary consequence of its violation? And if this postulation is just, what saves them from theft, murder, rape, self-preservation? Alas, poor world, is this all thy virtue? Wednesday, 6. Rode 20 miles and had the ice to break in 2 swamps. Preached at Lloyd's near Washington. Saturday, 9. I had a very unfeeling people at Mr. O's, to whom I preached with some freedom on Luke 4:18. Death, death, death in the lowlands. Sunday, 10. I had many to hear at S's, but it was an uncomfortable time. Thence I rode to Cox's on Neuse River, where we had an open time, and there is a prospect of good. We then had to move towards Trent. Our rides are still long, from 15 to 20 miles a day. Wednesday, 13. We had many dead souls at the quarterly meeting at Lee's. Thursday, 14. My heart melted for the people. They do not, will not pray, and if they so continue, must be undone. Friday, 15. Came to poor Jay's, where I spoke dreadful things to a lifeless people on Isaiah 53. Saturday, 16. We rode to T's, an old stand in Duplin County, where I was met by a few souls. We had naught to eat, nor where to lodge short of Colonel C's. We pushed for that shelter and reached there about 9 o'clock at night. A poor place for religion it is, but we met with good entertainment. Sunday, 17. I had about 500 hearers at Sampson Courthouse, to whom I enlarged on Peter's denial of his master. 1. He was self-confident. 2. Followed afar off. 3. Mixed with the wicked. 4. Denied his discipleship, and then his Lord. Tuesday, 19. At Fayetteville, I was unable to preach. Wednesday, we pushed on for the South State, but being unacquainted with the way, we fell 10 miles too low. After riding as many in the night, we ended our blunders and our fatigue for that day at S's, who used us kindly. South Carolina, Thursday, 21. We rode 20 miles in the rain through the woods and sands, and had but a poor time at Colonel M's. Thence we descended to the Green Ponds, 15 miles, where we were very comfortable at C's. Saturday, 23. I attended the quarterly meeting at the Beauty Spot. The weather was cold, but I had great assistance on Isaiah 35, 1-6. Sunday, 24. I preached on Zechariah 11:12. We had a gracious, moving time. Monday, 25. We crossed Petey at the Long Bluff, and rode nearly 50 miles to Brother Gardner's. I preached at Black Creek on Psalm 145. I was much fatigued, and had a high fever, but my soul had peace, and was stayed upon God. Wednesday, 27. After preaching at D's, I had to ride 10 miles out of my way to cross Lynch's Creek. We moved forwards to our worthy friend Rembert's, who entertained us kindly, and supplied us with horses to ride to our appointments at Lenoir's and Moore's, where we had few hearers and dead times. After our meetings at these places, we returned to Rembert's, at whose house our quarterly meeting began, on Saturday the 1st of March, which was not without some life. In our love feast there appeared to be more feeling than speaking. Monday, March 3. We rode through the snow to Bradford's, and next day had no small difficulty in crossing the swamps in order to get to Santee Ferry. We made it a ride of about 50 miles to H's, and did not get in until about 9 o'clock at night. Wednesday, 5. I passed Dorchester, where there are the remains of what appears to have once been a considerable town. There are the ruins of an elegant church, and the vestiges of several well-built houses. We saw a number of good dwellings, and large plantations on the road leading down Ashley River. In the evening we reached the city of Charleston, having ridden about 50 miles. Sunday, 9. Brother Ellis preached in the morning. In the evening I felt some liberty in enlarging on Romans 10, 1-3. On Monday my soul and body enjoyed some ease and rest. Friday, 14. Our conference began, and we had a very free, open time. On Saturday night I preached on I have set watchmen upon thy walls, etc. On the Sabbath on the Lord turned and looked on Peter, etc. It was a gracious season, both in the congregation and in the love feast. While another was speaking in the morning to a very crowded house, and many outside, a man made a riot at the door. An alarm at once took place. The ladies leaped out at the windows of the church, and a dreadful confusion ensued. Again, whilst I was speaking at night, a stone was thrown against the north side of the church, then another on the south. A third came through the pulpit window, and struck near me inside the pulpit. I, however, continued to speak on my subject, How Beautiful upon the Mountains, etc. Upon the whole, I have had more liberty to speak in Charleston this visit than I ever had before, and am of opinion that God will work here. But our friends are afraid of the cross. Monday, 17. Preached in the morning, and took my leave of the city. When I reached Mr. Givham's, the congregation had been dispersed about 10 minutes. I preached at R's, at L's, and at C.C. Church in the Edisto Circuit. The people are insensible, and I fear are more in love with some of Christ's messengers than with Christ. I now changed my course, and went through Orangeburg by the Congarese to Saluda, and thence up to Broad River quarterly meeting. We rode till 1 o'clock on Friday, the 21st of March. I believe we have traveled about 200 miles in 5 days. Dear Brother Smith accompanied me. I was so unwell that I had but little satisfaction at the quarterly meeting. My service was burdensome, but the people were lively. Wednesday, 26. We rode from Finch's to Odell's new church, where we had a good time, whilst I enlarged on Titus 2:14, and administered the Lord's Supper. Thence to Smith's, 30 miles. After preaching, we had a night meeting that prevented our getting to bed until about 12 o'clock. We had a comfortable cabin and were very well entertained. Thursday, 27. I had but little freedom on "The Foundation of God Standeth Sure." Brothers Mason and Major spoke after me. I went alone into the woods, and found my soul profitably solitary in sweet meditation and prayer. Friday, 28. Rode about 30 miles to B's. My soul was tried, but it was also comforted in the Lord. I was much led out on Ephesians 6:18, and we were employed till nearly 12 o'clock at night. Sunday, 30. I had some liberty in preaching, but the people began to move about when they were pointedly dealt with. Brothers Mason and Major spoke after me. I found it good to be alone by the solitary stream and silent woods, to study the welfare of Zion, and to pray for her prosperity. Monday, 31. We rode within a mile of Savannah River. The land in general during our route is very fine. We were benighted, and moping in the woods made our journey a long one of about 50 miles. Tuesday, April 1. We crossed the Savannah at the Forks, and came where I much wanted to be, in Georgia. Nevertheless, I fear I shall have but little freedom here. Georgia, Wednesday, 2. I rested, and compiled 2 sections which I shall recommend to be put into our form of discipline, in order to remove from society by regular steps either preachers or people that are disorderly. Saturday, 5. I was led out in preaching at the quarterly meeting on Zechariah 12:10. Sunday, 6. There was a moving on the souls of the people, and I felt much life on Isaiah 45:22. I have been told that during the last rupture the Indians butchered nearly 100 people. Wednesday, 9. Our conference began at the Forks of Broad River, where 6 members and 4 probationers attended. Brother Major was sick, and could not meet us. Soon after, he made his exit to his eternal rest. Thursday and Friday, 10:11. I felt free, and preached with light and liberty each day. Many that had no religion in Virginia have found it after their removal into Georgia and South Carolina. Here at least the seed sprung up, wherever else it may have been sown. Our little conference was about 61 pounds deficient in their quarterage, nearly 1/3 of which was made up to them. South Carolina, Sunday, 13. I called at a Presbyterian meeting house, and heard Mr. Hall, the minister, preach a good sermon on Isaiah 55. After meeting, we rode to Brother Moore's, 20 miles on the Saluda. Monday, 14. Was almost entirely occupied with writing letters to the North. Tuesday, 15. I had many people at the widow Bowman's. While here we had a most awful storm. I was afraid the house would come down. We rode in the night to M. Moore's. I was seized with illness on the way, which continued during the night. Next day, however, I was able to pursue my journey. Friday, 18. We rode along crooked paths to Casey's, where we received the afflicting account of the death of dear Brother Major, who departed this life last Saturday. He was a witness of holiness, and died in peace and love. Saturday, 19. I preached at Wilson's with some liberty on Peter 3:7. Sunday, 20. I spoke with little enlargement. Our friends here on Tiger River are much alive to God, and have built a good chapel. We rode to Buffington's in the evening on Fair Forest Creek, and were kindly entertained. North Carolina, Tuesday, 22. Rode to Rutherford Courthouse, and the next day to Burke Courthouse. It being court time, we went on and reached Brother White's, on John's River, about 10 o'clock at night. Here I found both the saddles broke, both horses foundered, and both their backs sore, so we stopped a few days. I preached on Revelations 22:5-8, and had liberty in speaking to the people. Our souls were blessed in a near access to the Lord. Our preachers in the Yadkin circuit have been sick. They have had hard traveling the past winter, and the work has consequently suffered. I have read Dee's Study of Divinity. The catalogue of books at the end I thought of more value than all the rest of the work. Sunday, 27. I preached at the Globe, on the main branches of John's River, where there are a few who fear God. There was some stir, and I hope some good done. Monday, 28. After getting our horses shod, we made a move for Holstein, and entered upon the mountains, the first of which I called Steel, the second Stone, and the third Iron Mountain. They are rough, and difficult to climb. We were spoken to on our way by most awful thunder and lightning, accompanied by heavy rain. We crept for shelter into a little dirty house, where the filth might have been taken from the floor with a spade. We felt the want of fire, but could get little wood to make it, and what we gathered was wet. At the head of Watauga we fed, and reached Ward's that night. Coming to the river next day, we hired a young man to swim over for the canoe, in which we crossed, while our horses swam to the other shore. The waters being up, we were compelled to travel an old road over the mountains. Night came on. I was ready to faint with a violent headache. The mountain was steep on both sides. I prayed to the Lord for help. Presently a profuse sweat broke out upon me, and my fever entirely subsided. About 9 o'clock we came to Greer's. After taking a little rest here, we set out next morning for Brother Cox's on Holstein River. I had trouble enough. Our route lay through the woods, and my pack horse would neither follow, lead, nor drive, so fond was he of stopping to feed on the green herbage. I tried the lead, and he pulled back. I tied his head up to prevent his grazing, and he ran back. The weather was excessively warm. I was much fatigued, and my temper not a little tried. I fed at I. Smith's, and prayed with the family. Arriving at the river, I was at a loss what to do, but providentially a man came along who conducted me across. This has been an awful journey to me, and this a tiresome day, and now, after riding 75 miles, I have 35 miles more to General Russell's. I rest one day to revive man and beast. Friday, May 2. Rode to Washington, where I met Brother Tunnel on the way to Mr. C.'s. We have to put up in houses where we have no opportunity for retirement. Virginia, Saturday, 3. We came to General Russell's, a most kind family in deed and in truth. Sunday, 4. Preached on Philippians 2:5-9. I found it good to get alone in prayer. Tuesday, 6. I had many to hear at Easley's on Holstein. I was much wearied with riding a strange horse, having left mine to rest. It is some grief that I cannot be so much in prayer on the road as I would be. We had a good time and a large congregation at Kay's. Tennessee. The people are in disorder about the old and new state. 2 or 3 men, it is said, have been killed. At Nelson's I had a less audience than was expected, the people having been called away on an expedition against the new statemen. My subject was Hebrews 6, 11, 12. Rode to Owens's and met our brethren from Kentucky, where I preached on Psalm 145, 17 through 19, with some fervor. Came to Half Acres and Keywood's, where we held conference 3 days, and I preached each day. The weather was cold, the room without fire, and otherwise uncomfortable. We nevertheless made out to keep our seats until we had finished the essential parts of our business. End of section 3. Recording by Brian Keenan.